Hello and welcome to my channel, and a special thanks goes out to my subscribers. And if you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe. In this video, I'm going to be talking about the special needs schools in Germany in particular, and how they have become a dumping ground for immigrant children. Now, you might think that's a bit exaggerated, but the special needs schools have really become a dumping ground for immigrants. Let's take a look at the population of Germany. About 12% of the people in Germany are immigrants, which means that for every 9 German, you have roughly 1 immigrant. Now look at the ratio of immigrant children in the special needs school, what you call here the further school. 40% of the children in the special needs schools are immigrants. That means that for every 10 children in a further school, in a special needs school, 4 are immigrants and 6 are Germans. But actually, if you reflect on the population, you should actually have 1 immigrant to about 9 German children. But here you have 4 immigrant children to about 6 German children. Now that might not seem much, but multiply this. Think of 4,000 immigrant children as opposed to 6,000 German children, while it should be actually 1,000 immigrant children to 9,000 German children. So what has gone wrong in this system? How come so many immigrants are in the Sonderschule? How does that happen? That's because this system is using the Sonderschule to dump our immigrant children. Parents are being scammed and fooled into putting their children into the Sonderschule. And I'm going to talk about my own experiences and how I was virtually fooled and pressured into putting my child in the Sonderschule, and maybe some parents can relate to this. The first method used to get our children into the special needs school is the method of assessment. These tests being done to see if a child is able to go to school are really based a lot on language. So any child that has an immigration background and doesn't speak German at home, the parents don't speak German, is normally at a disadvantage in this test. And apart from this test, the whole assessment of the children, the way the child is assessed, and the kind of protocol being taken on the child can be extremely biased. Of course, our children are more temperamental, and all those things are being reflected in a negative way. And this already affects the way this child is being assessed. So already, from the way the kindergarten assesses the child is being disadvantaged. Another thing that is being done is that when the kindergarten notice that a child has a problem, they may talk to the parent about it. They could call you and just mention it to you, but they don't really buttress it. They don't really explain to you the gravity of this problem and the options you have, like seeking help. They might just call you and say, oh, you know, we have difficulty with this child. The child cannot concentrate, or the child cannot play one game to the end. But they will not explain it to you as an immigrant how you need to understand it, that this child needs some help and intervention. It could be coached or go to a therapy, which would help the child to be ripe enough at the right age to go to school. So they wouldn't do that, but they always wait for the last hour. At that moment when it's almost time for your child to go to school, when it's too late, that's when they'll drop the bombshell. and tell you, oh no, we don't think this child can go to school. Another thing you'll find is that even though Germany signed the law, the UN Convention for inclusion in the schools, you'd never be given that option for your child. They would paint it to you like your child doesn't have the option of inclusive education, that is to be put in an integration class. They would only give you the option for the Schule, that is the special needs school. So they wouldn't give you that option at all of an integration class. And when they sell this special needs school to the parents, they always go stage by stage. They won't tell you directly your child needs to go to the special needs school, because if you are told on time, you might think of options you have, right down to taking a lawyer or doing some other test on the child. So they don't come out straight. They'll first tell you, oh yes, you know, we got someone to check the child, but we think your child is intelligent, just that it has this problem. Maybe it needs to go to the preschool. Oh, you know, your child is intelligent, but what it may need is a smaller class. So they'll keep painting this kind of picture, keeping you on this balance way. Maybe, maybe not, could be, could not be. So the parent would be living on the hope and will not take any concrete action. Sometimes they'll even tell you, yes, you know, we're making inquiries about, there's one school there, Waldorf Schule, just 10 children. They'll tell you all kinds of stories like that. And then you'll find that time is going and time is going. Then towards the end, when they tell you about the special needs school, now in this case, I'm really talking of children on the border. I know that there are some children that really have special needs, that really need this special needs school. But we are talking of children that could have fitted into a regular school. In these cases, they will now tell you that, okay, you know what? It's a special needs school, but they have classes where they just have the normal regular school. The children are learning the same thing as on a regular school. It's just that they have the luxury of being in a smaller group of like maybe 7, 8 children. And they'll paint to you all the advantages of the school, like the bus coming to pick the children, dropping the children eating in school, the facilities in the school. And that way they'll market this special needs school to you like it's something your child will gain from or something you shouldn't miss out on. So that's another strategy they use. So this is like the same experience I made with my son. We knew there was a problem. We went for tests, and all along they were telling me, yes, there's an option of he could go on a normal school, but a school with a smaller class. So let's look for a regular school with a smaller class, like 7 children. And I was even ready to take him myself to that school, even if it had to be an hour drive or whatever, and wait for him. So they kept playing with these options. Then at the end, they told me, oh, you know what? It's got to be the special needs school, but don't worry about it. There's a special, the school has various schools in it, and we're going to put him in the school for, you know, motorics and physical handicap, so that physical handicapped children. So he'll be on the regular school syllabus, like in a regular school. So when this was sold to me, I thought about it and said, okay, probably okay. I would have a look at the school and see how it is, if it's just a smaller class, and if it's a regular school syllabus, then what does my child have to lose? So I made an appointment and went to this school. And I kept asking the headmistress, I said, now why would you put my son, who is autistic, in a class with physically handicapped children? And I was told, oh, you know, these children are only physically handicapped, but mentally they are totally okay. And she took me into the class and she showed me the school books. You see these school books, the textbooks, these are the books being used in the regular primary school. So your child will be using these books. And if I was ready, I should sign the contract. So I had a good look at the school. It has a lot of facilities. You couldn't find such facilities on a normal regular school. They even have an indoor swimming pool, a wonderful hall for sports, really everything. It's really a luxury. And when I was about to sign the contract, she told me, well, your son wouldn't be starting in the first class, but we have a pre-1 class. And I made it clear to her that actually the academic part of the school was really important to me. And I would like my son to learn as much as possible. That was really top on my list, because I didn't really have so much of a problem with my son from his behavior. Yes, he was autistic, he was withdrawn, he was not very verbal, but for me the emphasis was on education. And she had assured me and said, yes, the education here is for them important. The class is a regular class, just that the children are physically handicapped, and my son would learn like in a normal school. And she even assured me that if he was in the pre-1 class and they noticed he could do more, he would be put in the first class. And that because it was such a small class and they had 2 teachers to 8 children, they kind of do like differential learning and individual learning. So each child would be taught according to how much they can learn. Now, I believe this woman, she was a headmistress. And in good faith, I took my son to that school. But I can tell you that my son was reading at home with me. We were already doing maths, you know, up to 10, 20 plus minus and other things. My son spent a year in that school, and they only did the alphabet A and O and the numbers 1 and 2. A whole year. That was the syllables in maths and German. So you see, I was scammed. I was lied to. I was shown books that children use that they never used at all. And I felt really bad about that. So virtually 1 year, I was teaching my son at home. It wasn't happening there in the school. The class, they told me that it was just for children with physical handicap and had problems moving. It was just a mishmash class. We had children there that were physically handicapped. There were children there that could not communicate at all. They were, their own handicap was quite grievous. There were children there that could talk. It was just a total mishmash. Not that that would be a problem. I don't want to discriminate against any child or anything, but that was not what I was told when I took my son there. I was virtually lied to. And another big lie or scam is that they'll tell you, oh, you know, when you put your child in the special needs school, it's just for a while for the child to, get a bit stronger. And then when you feel like you can take your child back to the regular school, biggest scam and lie. When I noticed that my child wasn't being taught there, I said I would like him after 1 year to go on a regular school. And suddenly I was told, oh no, the Germans have a saying, einmal Sonderschule, immer Sonderschule. Once in the special needs school, always in the special needs school. It's very, very difficult to get out of a special needs school. And the likelihood that they're going to let an immigrant child out of that school, it's a really small chance. When I asked for my son to be let out of to go to the regular primary school, I was told no. They don't think my son is ready. The one meeting, parent-teachers meeting I had in that school, instead of discussing my child's progress, they were busy discussing with me why I would want to take my child out of the school. And I said I didn't feel that was not the purpose of this parent-teachers meeting, and that was my decision. And I was told, no, it doesn't go that way. I had to make an application to the Schulamt, that is the Ministry for Education, and there would be a conference called a Bildungsweg Conference, where it would be decided if my child can leave that school or not. And when you go to that conference, there will be people from the Ministry of Education there, the teacher, the headmistress of the school, somebody from the Ministry for representing handicapped people. So you might find yourself in a meeting against 5-6 people who want to tell you your child should stay on that school. Because of course, tendency is they would flow along with the teacher and the headmistress. So I got into this conference and it was a real tough conference. Luckily, I was able to scale through. That would be digressing a bit too much to discuss how I did that. But I had my child, just briefly, I had an IQ test done on my child, and my child assessed by a specialist who certified my son was able to go to a regular school. And I had bought the workbooks for the regular school myself, and had been working with my son in these workbooks. So I was able to prove to this, in this conference, that my son was way ahead the 1 and 2 and A and 0. And my child had a right to adequate education, which was not being given in this special school, where they claim to, be teaching each child individually and supporting each child individually. The kind of lies they dished me with, that they have a program, a syllabus cut out for every child individually, a learning schemes cut out for every child individually, that they would discuss with the parents and agree with the parents what they feel the child could learn and what they could teach the child. That never happened. That never ever happened. In fact, I had only one meeting with the teacher, one parent-teachers meeting, where I was told not to take my child out. In the last term, imagine that in the last term, when for the second parents-teachers meeting, normally you would believe that this meeting is so important because my child would go in September to a normal school. You believe that this meeting is so important for the teacher to advise the parent, how can we make this passage from special needs school to the normal school? What can we do for the child? How can we help the child? The woman wrote me a note. Since your child is going to a regular school, there is no need for this meeting. And that was it. One meeting in a whole year, after I had been promised how closely they work with parents to monitor development of the child. That didn't take place at all. Another thing I have to say about the school is that their method of operation was, for me, too, I don't want to say conspiracy or so. It was so kind of I don't want to use the word sect or anything, that's too extreme. But you know, this kind of system that you shouldn't complain. If you complain, you are marked as an enemy. The very first day I asked the teacher, do you give homework to the children? The headmistress met me and said, why would you ask such a question? So I wouldn't want to use a sect or so, but it was this kind of, they don't encourage complaints, and everything was a bit like shrouded, and I had become like a kind of enemy or difficult parent because I seem to have wishes for my child. I mean, what they would have wanted is dump my child in the bus and take my child out of the bus. So they didn't really like that a parent was questioning what the child was learning in the school. And that wasn't too good. And rather than focusing on the academics, the teacher wrote me a whole book full of things like, once she wrote, teach your son how to eat with knife and fork, he eats in future. Once I got a note, your son is, call me urgently, your son is talking about going on holiday to München with his siblings. What does that mean? Another note I got was, your child is always talking about prayers at night. What does that mean? So it was kind of like odd to me because I didn't understand what this had to do with school or with my child's development. That was like poke-nosing a bit too much into my private family life, and that was not okay at all. But apart from that, I would honestly admit my son really loved the school because there were fewer children, and children with special needs are really very lovely children. They tick so differently, you know, they have warm hearts, they are so loving and everything. So my son really loved the school, and when he left that school, over a year later, he keeps saying, oh, I like my old school, I want to go back there, because he made some real good friends. And yes, I have to admit, they do have their structures, they, do things with the children, play, take the children here and there, they do a lot of sports, swimming and everything. So my son really liked that. So for that aspect of the school, I wouldn't say that my son was being treated badly or anything. He really liked the school and he really liked the friends. So that part of it was really okay. And I don't want to say my son didn't learn anything. Yes, he did learn, structures, doing things when you were told to do it also. So it does have a lot of positive things, but the issue is that is not enough or adequate for the child. And that's what it's all about, because we're not just putting our children on a holiday camp and entertain the child away from home, but children need to learn to be equipped for life, and that was sadly missing there. So that's basically it. The purpose of this video is not to pour a bad light on special needs school. These schools are definitely the best schools for children, some children, but the purpose of this video is to show that many children who are there shouldn't be there. They don't get the adequate education they need there. They could have coped better or learned much better on a regular school, but they are just being dumped there because they are immigrants. And for you also, in case you should be confronted with such a thing, to know that you have to do a lot of research yourself. Don't believe everything you were told. All the things I was told would be done with my child, how they will do ergotherapy with him there, they will do this, they will do that. They never took place. Swimming every week became maybe once a month, sometimes if we're lucky, once in 2 months. Ergotherapy, I don't even know if they did it at all. They'll tell you a lot of things, but most of them, they don't ever come to pass. So please, my advice to all parents, watch out from the start. In the kindergarten, if they start mentioning one thing to you or the other, talk to your doctor about it, look for a specialist, find out what therapies you can do, and inform yourself about the laws. Inform yourself about the options on time, so that you don't have your child pushed in there when it ought not to be there. Because there's also the option of like maybe a pre-1 class or so. So inform yourself about the options and don't be naive to believe everything you are told, because quite honestly, they want to keep their numbers in those schools and they just use our children to fill up the space. So thank you very much for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a thumb up, and if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Bye.